All right. Well, welcome to the YouTube interviews with the authors. I am Michaela Smith from Michaela's Book Nook, and I have Erin Branscom with me today. And let's just kind of introduce kind of who you are and some of your books and all that, and let the people know kind of who you are. Tell me about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Erin Branscom. I'm a contemporary romance author. I write small town romance currently and have just been having a really good time writing a small town romance book series. And it's been a lot of fun. So I love found family. I love, oh, yay! I love found family. I love all the tropes. I mean, enemies to lovers, um, friends to lovers, all of them. It's been so much fun just writing these and making my heart small town come to life.
And you just kind of decided to switch over to writing as an author. So what was that process like for you, deciding to jump into your dream and be like, you know what, I'm going to give this like my all, and I want to make these stories. We've kind of talking a little bit before camera how you were saying you always had these stories in your head and you were like, all right, it's time for me to put them to paper. I want to make these real. How was that, getting to finally jump into that for the first time?
I feel like I'm living my dream every day. I feel like I get to wake up and do what I love, which is such a cool feeling. I've always written stories for fun and I've always built worlds in my head. I love building world building, universe building, coming up with a new town and people and all their dynamics. And I've always done that. I thought everyone did that. And I remember talking to some of my friends once and they're like, no, we don't do that. I'm like, oh. And I think I had limiting beliefs, as we do sometimes, where, and for me, it was I had a high school English teacher tell me that it was a good thing that I was never going to be a writer because my grammar was so terrible. And I was 17, I think at the time, something 16, 17. And I remember just believing that, oh, okay, I'm not going to be a writer, but I love stories, but I'm never going to be good enough to write. And then
Mm-hmm.
one day I just thought, well, I think I just had like one of these moments where I was like, well, what are editors for? Like, why do we have editors if we, if writers are, I put these authors on these pedestals, like they must be like fantastic. They all must have like master's degrees in writing from prestigious universities, and some do, and some don't. And I thought, well, how did they do this if they don't have all this fancy knowledge? Like I thought there was like a secret club you had to belong to. And then I realized, no, that's what editors are for. And we love our editors. We love them. And so we need them. All of us need them, no matter where we're at on the writing spectrum. And so I just decided in 2021, I was on a trip with my husband. We went to Alaska and we stayed off grid. We had no technology for a long, like 5 days,
That's
and
awesome.
no electricity, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. It was awesome for me. I had a fully loaded Kindle, but my husband, he was like, I need the internet.
I'm bored.
And so I just decided on that trip, I was like, you know what, sink or swim. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, from start to finish, write um, a book series that I had in my head. And it was initially only one book. It was Falling in Love, which is this book. And I wrote this book 9 times. So bad. The first draft was so terrible, but I had to learn and I knew I had to begin. And I just gave myself permission to suck. I was like, you know what? It's probably not going to be that great the first time. And I just knew that if I didn't begin, it would never begin. And
Mm-hmm.
so writing it, all the other books and characters came to life, and there ended up being 6. So
That's so
that's how I
awesome.
got.
That's incredible. Okay, so I like to do this little question kind of like as an icebreaker to make things just a little bit easier. And I kind of jumped a little bit ahead of myself, maybe, but I was just really excited. So
Really
I just have to ask, are you a Pepsi or are you a Coke girl?
neither. Not a big soda person, but I do love sparkling waters like Aha's, bubbly. And I love coffee. Like coffee basically runs through my veins.
Okay, that leads me perfectly into another question that I had specifically for you. So, when I was reading Falling in Love, I am a big fan of Gilmore Girls. And so we started talking about this, that you also really enjoy the show and you like to write a lot of little crumbs in your books about some of the Gilmore Girls characters. So, how has that been fun for you to take like things that you like in your life and being able to plug those and put those into your books?
So much fun. I think if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, we can all attest that we ended that series wanting more. We all wanted to keep living in the Gilmore Girl realm. And I see so many posts across social media where people will say, I want to go back to the fall where I can Gilmore Girls coffee bookstore. And it's a cozy feeling. That show gave us cozy feeling. And I love that. And so when I'm writing, I think when a lot of authors are writing, there's pieces of them and things they love in their books. And so I loved the Stars Hollow world. I loved all the people. I loved their idiosyncrasies. And I thought it was just a really magical place. So there are little sprinkles of that in my book because I felt like it kind of kept the world going, kind of like a fan fiction type nod. Say, this is Stars Hollow, but this is a Gilmore Girls vibe. This is there's a fall festival in Falling in Love, and it's a scene where the inn was kind of dying, and the owner had passed away, and the son comes back to kind of resurrect it and run it. And so he has to bring back all these traditions that are painful because it makes him miss his dad. And I loved sprinkling like dozy feelings in there and all the coffee. Beth, the main character in Falling in Love, she loves coffee. And I have to always remember what part you guys read and what part I wrote because there were 9 drafts of this, keep in mind. Some things didn't make the cut, which would make fantastic secret, like, exclusives. I could put in my newsletter now that I think about it. But there were so many funny scenes that were Gilmore Girl-esque, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I know I've messaged you about reading Baked in Love. Then there's the fun little character. And I even made a video about this on my TikTok that Logan, yes, the main man character, he starts calling his counterpart Ace. And I was like, hold on a second. When I first heard that for the first time, I remember texted you and I was like, is this supposed to be like Gilmore Girls? And you're just like, yes. And I loved it. So I think that's so fun for anybody who, has watched the show to see those little pieces and kind of like go hunting in a way through your books to kind of like find the different pieces that you sprinkle through. Because I remember reading Falling in Love too when Beth was always like, I don't function until I have my coffee. And I was like, this is literally Lorelai. Like, this is how she functions. It was like first thing in the morning, coffee, like afternoon, coffee, like I need a refill. And I was like, I know this character. So that's so awesome. So you have a new book coming out.
I do. It's called Love in Books. I don't have a book yet, but it's hard.
So how has the writing process been for you, kind of different between your first 3 books compared to writing Love in Books?
Well, I think I was just thinking about this earlier. I know I shouldn't have a favorite child, but Baked in Love is still my favorite child. But I mean, I love them all for various reasons because I knew all these people needed their stories. But Love in Books was by far the funnest to write because it is a true rom-com. It totally fits in the rom-com category. And the others I wouldn't say were as funny. I think they had humor in them, but the Love in Books was pranks, office pranks, enemies to lovers. They give each other so much grief that you just never know what's coming. And I never know it's such a daunting process because I can think a book is so great and then I can give it to my editor and she's like, yeah, no. And so I was very nervous last Friday. I sent this to her and she said, okay, give me a week to read it. Well, she ended up reading it in like 48 hours, I think. And she came back quickly and said, okay, this was really funny. This was sensational. This is your best work yet. She said, you did your job, kid. And that was like so cool because you have to know where I came from with Falling in Love, the first book. I rewrote it 9 times. And rewriting a book 9 times will weigh heavily on you because it's stretchy. I literally have stretch marks on my brain. It stretched me so much. I had to learn things I didn't know. Not to mention grammar. I was, I've come so far with that, but structure and story plot lines and things like that, things, marks that you have to hit in every book that readers expect, are coming a lot easier to me now. And just writing this book there was a lot less pressure. And so when you are trying to be funny, it's really hard. But when you're just writing it from your heart and what you feel, it is just a really fun process. And I have to say, this book was a lot of fun because these people didn't exist as other people. They were really completely made up in my head. Some of the other characters really were based on people that I had seen or watched or things like that. But these two really came to my heart from scratch. And they were very opposite people. One comes from a very affluent family and is an attorney, an Ivy League educated lawyer. And then the other one lives in a Volkswagen bus with her pet raccoon. So these are two very people. One is very vibrant and colorful and chaotic, and the other one is very buttoned up and proper, and they both need each other. And those are my favorite romances, when they come from different worlds and they just like destroy each other's lives and then build it back together.
That's awesome. So you kind of touched on this, and it was one of my questions, that you said Baked in Love is, you don't want to pick favorites, but it's one of your favorites. So I was going to ask you if you have a favorite book, but what about a favorite character? Is there a character that maybe you feel like you relate the most to, or that was like your favorite to write? Is there one that maybe sticks out a little bit more than others?
I don't know that I really relate personally to any of the characters specifically, but there's pieces of me in every book. For the first book, it was a way to heal. When I made the decision to start writing in 2021, I was going through a lot of grief. I had just lost my dad, and then I lost my brother unexpectedly. And so I lost a third of my family in just a few years. And my brother's death was by far the most painful because he was killed by a drunk driver. And during that time, I went and spoke at the sentencing hearing and did the victim impact statement. It was a really emotionally charged time. And I channeled that grief through writing. And this is a little bit of a spoiler, but in the first book, there's a trigger warning in the beginning, and I talk about how it deals with grief and trauma. And that was a part of me healing. Because when you lose a loved one unexpectedly to drunk driving, there's just so much pain and anger and so many layers of grief in there. And what I learned in that process, I shared it on social media, was that I wasn't, sadly and unfortunately, alone in that. There are so many people who have been impacted by drunk driving and have been victims or had family members that were victims. And it can be a very lonely space. And so one of the things I wanted to do when I started writing was I wanted to write real life hard stuff, real life trauma and things that people go through, and write a happy ending with it, because, that silver lining is everything when you're going through it, right? And so Falling in Love has a little bit of our family's kind of story, and they're not really personally, but I just kind of put that in there to work through that. Then I wrote Baked in Love, and there were pieces of me in that too. In the beginning, she bakes a lot of cinnamon rolls. She's got cinnamon rolls all over. And in the beginning, she bakes all these cinnamon rolls to raise money to move back home, because it's expensive to move. And my editor's like, this is unrealistic. No one can bake that many cinnamon rolls, and no one would pay that much for cinnamon rolls. And I'm like, that is actually not true. I did that as a single mom. When I was a single mom a long time ago, like 18 years ago, my boys were really little. They're grown-ups now. It's crazy to think of. But when they were little, I baked to pay for their daycare. I baked to pay for their Christmas. And that's how I made it. Whenever I needed money, I just hustled for a little extra income to pay for whatever we needed. And so, piece of me in there. I remember baking. I remember cleaning houses. I remember babysitting, all the things. So a little bit of me in there. Melly's story was a little trickier, and that was by far my hardest book to write because there were a lot of pieces of me in this one. This one deals with domestic violence and single moms, and a lot of that was my story, and a lot of that is true. So a lot of those pieces were very extremely difficult for me to write and edit.
So we kind of talked about some of your books and how you have like different pieces in all of them. When you're not writing, what is your favorite thing to do?
Read.
Constantly reading when you're not writing?
Constantly reading. My Kindle is my husband jokes, he's like, this is your emotional support Kindle.
Is it with you all the time?
All the time.
I love that. Mine's
Yep.
the small, like the Kindle Paperwhite. It's unfortunately not like within reaching distance right now. It's in my living room, but mine also goes with me most places. I like to call it the emotional support library. It's just like you can just take it all around.
Yep.
That's awesome. So when you are writing, do you have a favorite place maybe that you go and write? Do you do a lot of your writing at home, or maybe do you like to go to different places? Kind of, where's your calming place, the best place for you to be when you're trying to write your books?
Well, I have like different stations for different pieces, if this makes any sense. So right now I'm plotting. I'm plotting out this one. And this one comes out in October. And I have written 11 books. That's done. But when that comes back from the editor, I have to edit here in my office. I have 2 monitors. I have to edit here. And then I always write outside. I don't know why, but that's where the creative juices flow. And so I will take my laptop and go sit outside and just kind of write out there. I'll plot anywhere. I have like a little tote bag right now, and it's got all my notebooks, and it looks like a serial killer board. I'm plotting and figuring things out. And I didn't think I was a big plotter, but I'm definitely a plotter. And so I will plot anywhere. Like right now I'm running kids places here and there. Busy mom. Got kids, and I have 4 kids. They're in all different stages of life and various things and need various things. So I can work anywhere, and I've taught myself to turn it on and turn it off pretty quickly. And when I write, I'll typically just write with my laptop anywhere. So
Okay. So I have a little bit of a challenge for you. So you have your 4 books now that you've written. So if you could describe each individual book in one word, what would be the word that you would pick for each book? So you can start with falling in love. If you had to pick one word, what
the
would you
first
be?
one is autumn. This is all about fall. Autumn.
Okay. So autumn, then baked in love. What's your one word for that?
Delicious. It talks all about baked goods and coffee and donuts. So delicious. If you love bakeries and
And
delicious.
Logan, our main man character, he's the main male character. He's a little bit on the delicious side too, I would like to say. He's got top of boyfriend material.
Yeah. Yep. And this one would be fresh, because it's all about gardening and farmers markets and starting fresh, new start, new life, new growth. So fresh.
Okay.
This one is funny.
Okay.
Every time I think of a scene I wrote, I giggle. And my husband's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, it has to be good if you crack yourself up.
That's the best kind of situation, when you're just like laughing at yourself, or like you start to think about your own jokes and you're like, okay, that's a pretty good one if I'm still laughing at it.
Yeah. Or this is a book I can find myself reading over and over again for editing, and I haven't wanted to throw it across the room yet. And I'll just catch myself falling. I'll just say, I'm going to do 25 pages of editing really quick. And then it's like 100 later. I'm like, oh, I was supposed to stop. So, it's like good when you want to keep reading it. And sometimes I'll just crave like a book to read. And I want to read my book because I want that world. Like what I want to read is what I write. So I'll catch myself like wanting to this is all about a bookstore. And also she also runs on coffee. And if you liked Baked in Love, that is the name of the actual bakery. It is all throughout the 3rd and 4th books. They're always in the bakery. They're always baking. They're always doing stuff together. And all 4 of the heroines so far have kind of come together and formed like a girl gang, and they're best friends. So they all they can be read as standalones, but they're interconnected. So it would be best to read them in order.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll fall in love with one set of characters and then fall in love with the next, and you still keep tabs on the others, but it kind of drips into future books, and there's a whole spin-off series coming of future characters that you have met already. So it's just a whole world that I made that I want to live in.
That's awesome. So, do you have maybe one thing that this is kind of like another just fun question, not really book related. One thing that nobody knows about your one of your like hobbies or something that's a little bit that you're like, okay, I can share this, like that's funny, or something that you do maybe you're like, this would be, funny.
Well, my husband jokes that I need to get like a chip, like a 90-day chip for like Alcoholics Anonymous, but only for dogs. He said I need to have one that says like it's been 9 days since I adopted my last dog, because I have a habit of rescuing dogs. It's a problem. It is what it is. I can't say no to anyone if they're like, this dog needs a home. I will take it and train it and get it ready and rehome it. Like, it's a thing. So my husband at this time is like, please promise me that you will not bring home another dog this week. I can't make that promise.
Tell everybody about your most recent dog that is living with you right now that you just brought home.
Well, one of our neighbors down the street, she had a dog in her backyard, and I would see him on my walks. And it's a joke because I don't really know all my neighbors, but I know all their dogs. And I'll say, oh, that's so-and-so's house. And my husband's like, is that the dog? I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't know the people, I just know the dog. So I would see this dog on my walks, and he would be so excited to see me. And he would always come to the fence, and he'd whimper when I walked away. And it was like, oh, I think he wants to come with me. And so I jokingly texted his owner, and I was like, hey, can your dog have a play date with my dog? And she said, you know what, you can just have him. And I was like, oh, I just wanted to play with him. And she's like, no, I'm rehoming him. You can have him. So I just took him home.
And he's very cute, and he's very sweet, and he's a baby.
He is a baby. He's 8 months old. He's at my son's house right now. My son, he jokes that we have 50-50 custody. And when he's with him, and when he's working, he's with me, and he's glued to all of our sides. He loves it here. He loves Molly, my other dog. He loves the yard. He loves his walks. He's only 8 months old, but he's a really good boy.
So talking about dogs, you like to include, you can kind of see in your posters behind you, there's often dogs and animals in your books. You try to put that in almost every book, don't you?
Yes. A little spoiler that I haven't talked about yet is in the 6th book. It's called In the End. You ever have that, like, F it all, I'm just going to quit my job and go start like an animal sanctuary somewhere off the grid? Like, she does. She literally says, I'm done with life, and goes and starts her own animal sanctuary. So you're going to see a lot more coming up in those future books. And
that's amazing.
And so I do love dogs. This is actually my neighbor's dog across the street. His name is Brisket in real life, and he is like 125-pound Bernedoodle. And so he's in the 4th book. And then I don't have this special animal in this one, the pancake. He's the raccoon. She has a pet raccoon. He's on all my books. My designer puts the animals or something on the spine. And so the raccoon is actually going to be on the pink book on the spine.
That's awesome.
Stickers and all kinds of cool stuff coming for that. So
that's so fun and so exciting. And some of the other fun things that you like to do with each book that I can show people right now is you like to have candles. So while you're reading Falling in Love, you always encourage people to like smell the candle. So this one smells like fall, obviously. And then for Baked in Love, this one smells like cinnamon rolls because Allie is always baking, like you mentioned. So that's another fun one. And then All in Time, it smells more outdoorsy. Everything smells really good. So you'll also have a 4th candle for your newest book. And there it is. Okay. What is this one going to smell like?
It smells like coffee, whipped cream, and caramel.
Ooh.
Are you?
I need to burn it in my house.
Oh, this is just, I love the whole reading vibe. Like, get a mug of your favorite warm drink, get your favorite book, and curl up and make it like a fun experience. And so I made I didn't make the candles. Novelly yours did. Her name's Brittany, and she's amazing. She's a small business owner out of the US here. And she makes the most high quality candles that are just so beautiful. And I wanted people to be able to read like the fall theme book and feel the fall vibes. Maybe it's summer when you're reading it. No big deal. You got the candle. Or maybe you are like, you know what? I need the outdoors. I need spring. I need all the summer, spring vibes. You can read All in Time, and then it'll smell like fresh, like a farmer's market. And then, of course, this one is going to be all books, coffee, and pranks.
Amazing. I'm so excited for that. I can't wait to get my hands on that one.
Oh, I cannot wait to get them back. I get it back next week, and usually I'll edit it quick because I get so excited. It's like all of a sudden life's in my house stops. Well, it was real, kids. Now you're going to eat cereal for dinner, and then edit nonstop until it's like I can't touch it again. Like I send it away and not touch it again. And so it's like I can't stop because I need the physical copy in my hand ASAP. So I just edit it until I can't anymore.
That's awesome. Well, we're getting kind of closer to the end of the 30 minutes. So I wanted to see if there was anything else that I didn't ask that you maybe wanted to share, maybe about your writing process or just your books in general, kind of things, just about your life. If there's anything that I missed that you maybe think would be fun to ask and talk about.
Well, I think if there's something in your life that you've always wanted to do, but you've been very scared to do it or had limitations that maybe were false limitations or whatever it is, maybe you want to garden, maybe you want to be a writer, maybe you want to be an editor, whatever it is, don't let anything stop you, because I have made it my mission to be persistent and consistent in chasing the hard things that I want to do, because life is short. Tomorrow is never promised. So live your life, do all the things that bring you joy and challenge you and fill your cup. That's the one thing that writing does for me. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. And every day I'm learning something new, and I love learning. I love like challenging myself in that aspect. So whatever it is in your life, don't give up.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on and joining me today. It was so awesome being able to talk to you about all of your books and your future book. Tell everybody when that will be coming out so everyone can kind of be waiting to read Love in Books.
One comes out September, July 27th. I don't know what month it is. July 27th comes out. These are available on my shop now, but if you order a book with it, I just wait to ship it out with the book. So, but these are all available on my shop. I have limited quantities of these in book boxes, or you can buy them separate. But they're a lot of fun. A lot of people just like to buy all of them. And there is coupon codes in my newsletter if anybody's interested. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're able to join us, and I can't wait to read your newest book when it comes out. And if you guys haven't subscribed yet, you totally need to subscribe to my channel. We'll be having more author interviews, kind of talking about all of the writing process and more interesting things to talk about in the next few days. And thank you again so much, Erin, for joining. And I can't wait to read more of your books coming up soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michaela.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.